here we go. Hour 2 on a Thursday. Loaded. It's The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. I got a bunch of good stuff today. Albert Breer, bottom of the hour, some good stuff. Some very, very good stuff. J-Mac. Yeah, we were just talking about this. There's so much negativity out there. I don't even want to watch TV in October and November. Oh, my Lord.
You'll watch sports, obviously.
Here's what, everybody always talks about how the economy is. You said something during the break. You went to get your car fixed, and they're like, sorry, 3 weeks, place is packed.
You go to a restaurant any day of the week, and it's
Anywhere.
like there's a line to get in. I don't know. Maybe it's just California, but
61% of Americans are in the stock market, 158 million people. It's at 41,000. Don't tell me the economy's terrible. It may not be great. Don't tell me it's terrible. Inflation down, unemployment
But that's what you
low.
do. You fearmonger. You say the world is ending unless you ride with me. You got to back me. Listen to me. And, that's kind of where we are. It's not pretty.
No. So Jordan Love's going to sign a contract here for the Packers very, very quickly. I'm reading a couple stories here in the Bleacher Report. It looks like it's pretty close. They're working on it. And I would love to see about 8 more starts. But, I trust the Packers. They do quarterbacks well. But here's the thing about Jordan Love. Green Bay maybe knows and maybe they don't. But we don't know exactly what he is yet. We know he's talented. But what is really interesting is that the Packers, according to PFF, have about the 13th best roster in the league. So he doesn't have the Philadelphia roster, the San Francisco roster, where we question whether or not he's winning the game or the roster's winning the game. Right? Like the Niners, that roster, Detroit's roster, stacked, Kansas City. That's not what Green Bay's roster is. And I looked at the schedule this morning, and what is really cool about Jordan Love and the Packers schedule, take out Matt Stafford, week 5. Outside of that, he basically faces the entire schedule is one of his peers. I mean, Tua, is he great or is it the coach? Purdy, is he great? Is it the roster and Shanahan? C.J. Stroud, 1 great rookie year. Trevor Lawrence, 1 great year. Jalen Hurts, 1 great year. We don't know what Jalen Hurts is yet. We don't know. I don't really know. We know Stafford's great. But if you look at this, we're going to have a real sense of what Jordan Love is at the end of the year. He's facing all of his peers. He gets to face Caleb Williams twice. That's a game I'm in. Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. They're all super talented, but they're young, so we don't know what they are. So this is not a schedule that's got like Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, guys that are clearly better than him, or rosters that are clearly better. He's facing himself, a lot of good rosters and a lot of talented quarterbacks, but we're not really sure if they're going to be great. And that's where I am with Jordan Love. Really, really talented for about an 8-9 game stretch. I don't know if he's going to be great. I think there's a real opportunity. Again, the kid says the right thing every time he's asked a question at the podium. He's got a Dak Prescott quality, that Brady quality, always good at the podium. But really interesting, if you look at Green Bay's schedule, how it fares. All his peers, 1 week after another. So most of the time when it comes to a football coach, there's like one opinion. Andy Reid is great. Any other opinion than that, you're an idiot. Like, we know he's great, right? And there's guys, I don't even need to mention their names and be mean-spirited. They're over their skis. Like, we saw one in the NFL last year out west, over your skis. But generally, you can have one opinion. Works the same in college. Nick Saban, great. Texas the last 20 years had a lot of coaches that weren't great. You usually have one opinion. Steve Sarkisian, the coach of Texas, is one of the few coaches in pro or college football. You can have a strong opinion, pro or con, and they're both right. I like Sark. I know Sark. But you can have the opinion that, and Nick Saban said yesterday, what kind of tickles me, all these people talking about Texas always ran the conference they were in. They're not going to run the SEC, which, by the way, I agree. I think Bama, Georgia, and Texas will run the SEC. But you can be either side with Sark, either side. I'll give you an example. The critics Well, he was fired at USC and couldn't get his act together personally. You're right. Hey, 1 10-win season. Win the big games, pal. All right. And you're kind of right on that one, too. Or you can say he was Pete Carroll's best offensive coordinator. Washington was 0-12, and he turned them around in a season and a half. He is arguably the first, second, or third best recruiter as a head coach in college football. And, oh, by the way, the Texas Longhorns program was a tire fire. In the 11 years previous to start getting there, they won 10 games or more once. And that's a huge brand. Since he's arrived, they've been better in every season. He took them to the playoff. They are stacked at multiple positions, and they are completely relevant as a recruiting machine. All of those are true. He is a great recruiter, a great offensive mind with tremendous energy. And he's got to win more big games, and his teams at times outplay other teams and lose. Sometimes they're a little situationally iffy. For the record, Kyle Shanahan has been a little situationally iffy, and Andy Reid got clobbered for years in Philadelphia. In late games, he couldn't manage the clock. I think coaches over time, that works itself out. It's like fumbles in the NFL. Some years you have a lot, some years you don't. I don't think there's any science to fumbles or recovering them. So I think you can go both ways on Sark, and he's one of the few coaches you can have a strong opinion, pro or con. They're both kind of right. He's at the SEC media days. I think Alabama, Georgia are the best teams along with Texas in that conference, and here's Sark.
In this conference, you got to have depth. If you don't have depth, and everybody wants to talk about the O&D line, yes, that's vitally important, and I think we've got great depth there. You got to have depth at quarterback. You got to have depth at running back. You have to have depth at safety. You have to have depth across the board. And for us to be able to sit here and say this is the deepest team we've had, probably the most talented team we've had in my 4 years here, I can unequivocally say that.
Now, I will tell you that I tend to root for certain stories. And I'll tell you what I'm rooting for. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but in both cases, it could be true. I kind of want Oregon to win the Big Ten because it'll freak everybody out. Here comes the interloper. They're coming from out west. They can't handle the physicality of the Big Ten. And then Oregon beats Ohio State and Eugene runs the table. And Oregon could do it. Don't think they will win the Big Ten. I think they'll finish second. But that would be good for my business, the interesting business. And I want to see Texas win the SEC because the SEC is very tribal, very insular. Here comes Texas from the old soft, squishy Big 12. And if they go into the SEC and win it. So this year, I try not to root. I would love to see Oregon and Texas go into these new conferences. They both are stacked at the NIL, stacked with NFL talent. Be honest. If a West Coast team goes into the Big Ten and finishes above Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, that's a great college football story. And if Texas goes into Georgia, Bama territory and wins it, that's incredible for the sport. And I've said this for years. I love college football. I root for interesting. Texas going into the SEC and kicking arse is awesome. The last time a college football game got a massive NFL rating, USC against Texas. Texas is a massive brand in college football. Smack dab, right in the middle of the country. Got a kind of a Pac-12 cool feel, an SEC feel, but all Texas as well. J-Mac, Eric Musselman's going to be joining us in the last hour of the show today. Albert Breer is right around the corner. What do you got planned for the big weekend?
How is this a big weekend?
Well, I have a...
oh, you have a big weekend.
Well,
so
I'm not going to get into...
that I've got something cooking.
I've got a party that I will actually... It's on the beach out east. I'll wear sunglasses.
Are you impressed that I didn't ask you about it? I'm waiting for a good moment of weakness where you'll just tell me about it.
I've been told the party I'm going to is catered.
Is this one of those parties with like young, hot people, or is it like an old person party?
Young, hot people?
Yeah,
It's a party with attractive people and lobster. It's very beachy and very northeast.
But it's in like Boston.
I'm not going to get into that. But you're not doing anything this weekend?
Schedule's kind of wide open. We got our last regular season game for the Gray Foxes. We're undefeated. We'll win.